What would you do if someone offered you a choice between two crowns, and instead of picking one, you accepted both? That's what happened to a 12-year-old boy in Poland more than 100 years ago. One night, in front of a small image of the Virgin Mary, he saw something he would never forget. She was holding two crowns, one white, one red. Mary asked him which one he wanted. The white one meant purity. The red one meant giving his life for love. The boy answered with something that surprised everyone. "I accept both." His name was Raymond, and that answer, many years later, would save the life of a father of a family in the darkest place that ever existed. Stay with us, because what this boy did with those two crowns is still changing lives today. Raymond was born on January 8, 1894, in a small Polish town called Zduńska Wola. He wasn't a perfectly calm child, quite the opposite. He was restless, curious, with a strong personality that sometimes worried his mother. One tired day, his mother asked him, "Raymond, what's going to become of you?" The boy was so affected by the question that he went to pray, troubled, in front of an image of the Virgin. And that's when the vision of the two crowns happened. That night, everything changed. Raymond understood that God wasn't asking him to choose between being good or being brave. God was asking for both at once. His family was simple but deeply faithful. His parents taught him from a young age to pray every night and, above all, to trust the Virgin Mary as a close mother, never a distant one. And that childhood promise would lead him a few years later to an even bigger decision. At 13, Raymond entered the Franciscan seminary. There, he received a new name, Maximilian. He was sent to study in Rome, where many young men only wanted to stand out. Maximilian wanted something else, to understand truth so he could defend it. He studied so hard, he earned 2 doctorates, one in philosophy, one in theology, before turning 20. For Maximilian, studying was never a prize for himself. It was a tool to serve others. He was ordained a priest in 1918 and added Mary's name to his own. From then on, he was Maximilian Mary. To him, science and faith were never enemies. He believed that reason, well used, always ended up leading people to truth, and truth always ended up leading them to God. But Maximilian wasn't satisfied with studying. He wanted to use everything he knew to fight a very different battle. While studying in Rome, Maximilian saw something that worried him. Dangerous ideas were spreading fast, and almost no one was answering them with truth. Together with 6 friends, he founded a movement with a curious name, the Militia of the Immaculate. Its motto was to renew all things in Christ through the Immaculate. Back in Poland, he began publishing a simple magazine so the faith could reach straight into people's homes. With very little money and an old printing press, he built an entire town devoted to printing hope. He called it Niepokalanów, City of the Immaculate. In time, almost 800 friars worked there, and the magazine reached print runs of hundreds of thousands. It wasn't just a printing press, it was an entire community. Some wrote, some cooked, some spent hours in prayer so those words would reach hearts far away. But for Maximilian, printing paper wasn't enough. He wanted to carry that message even farther. In 1930, Maximilian traveled to Japan, not knowing the language, not knowing a single person. Within months, he learned Japanese, founded a convent, and began publishing the same magazine, now in Japanese. He didn't come to impose anything. He came to listen first, so the people of Japan could understand Christ in their own words. The mission grew, new vocations were born, and everything seemed to be going well, until Maximilian had to return to Poland.
He knew that evangelizing didn't mean imposing a foreign culture, but helping each person recognize in their own words the love God already had for them. Because in Europe, something terrible was about to begin. In 1939, World War II began. Armies invaded Poland, and the persecution reached Nepomuchanów too. But instead of closing the doors to protect themselves, Maximilian opened them even wider. He welcomed thousands of refugees, the wounded, and Jewish families being persecuted too. He didn't ask what religion they belonged to or where they came from. He simply saw people who needed help, and he helped them. The authorities watched him closely. They knew Maximilian wasn't afraid to speak the truth. On February 17, 1941, he was arrested. Months later, he was taken to a place whose name chilled the blood: Auschwitz. And there, in a place designed to destroy all hope, Maximilian was about to prove that love could still win. In Auschwitz, a prisoner managed to escape. As punishment, the guards chose 10 men at random to starve to death, one by one, in front of the others. One of the chosen was Francisco Gajowniczek, a man with a wife and children. When he heard his name called, he broke down. "My wife, my children, I'll never see them again." Then a thin friar stepped out of the line. He walked up to the commander and said, "I am a Catholic priest. I want to die in his place." The commander, surprised, accepted. Francisco Gajowniczek went home to his family. Maximilian took his place. For nearly 2 weeks, in a cell with no food or water, the other prisoners heard something they had never heard in that place: quiet prayers and gentle singing. Instead of complaints or despair, Maximilian kept comforting the other condemned men, as if he was the one who needed comfort least. On August 14, 1941, the eve of the Feast of the Virgin Mary, Maximilian died in peace. But to understand where he found the strength to do this, we have to go back to what he loved more than anything. Maximilian called the Eucharist the bread of angels. He said that in that small piece of bread, Jesus doesn't meet us face to face, but heart to heart. Every day, before printing magazines, before traveling to Japan, before opening the doors to refugees, Maximilian knelt first before the tabernacle. There, he found that quiet strength he would later use to love without fear, even a stranger. That's how he could give his life for a man he had never even met, because he had already learned to receive every single day the love of someone who gave his life for him first. You can visit that same tabernacle too today in the church closest to your home and find that same quiet strength. And there's still one question left to answer. What did those 2 crowns mean in the end? Reflection. 1. True courage isn't the absence of fear. It's loving anyway, even when it costs everything. Maximilian proved that by giving his life for a stranger. 2. The same strength that carried Maximilian through the darkest place on earth is waiting for you today in the Eucharist in the church closest to your home. Remember the 2 crowns? The story ends right where it began. Stay for the last 30 seconds. That boy who accepted both crowns kept his word. He lived with the pure heart of the white crown, and he died giving his life for love, just as the red crown had promised. Both crowns, in the end, turned out to be the same crown, the crown of a love that never holds itself back. As Maximilian used to say, only love creates, hatred destroys. Which of the 2 crowns do you relate to today? Tell us in the comments. And if you want to meet the next superhero of faith, subscribe now.